Hi everyone. So we'll continue our discussion to the next step. And in this video, I'm going to show you how you can get the eBay JWT token from eBay API, and we can use the Postman to make sure that our username and password and all the configuration is correct. And why have included the Postman in between, why we are not jumping directly into the code, because in Postman it will allow you to check your authentication and check your API that whether it is working or not. And that's a very efficient way, because that decouple the complexity between the code and the API, because API is hosted external. And if you want to communicate with the API in the code, obviously you are going to embed it, and I'm going to show you in very shortly in the code how you can do it. And that's a pattern, that's a standard pattern across all the API. We provide the configuration, either our username, password, or any other authentication mechanism. And based on that, we authenticate ourselves across the API. And then once the API authenticate us, it provides us the output based on our query. And it is standardized across the software application as well as in the data and analytics world, right? Because in most of the even analytical project, we have to communicate with the external services to get the data. And how we normally do it, we use the API integration method. So same in this project, where we are going to use the eBay API to communicate with eBay e-commerce portal to get the product information, right? But in order to do it, the first step is to authenticate ourselves. And how we are going to do it, like I mentioned in the first step, that you need to create your keys. Once you get your key, based on your key, you're going to get your ID and the secret. Remember, it's not going to be your password, it's going to be your ID and client secret. So it is regardless of the password. So that's the most secure way. You are passing your ID and secret to eBay, and eBay is going to return you the JWT token. That JWT token has the authorization and authentication information embedded in it, and I'm going to show you in. We can even decode this JWT token, and I think if I remember, while I was recording the AWS videos, I have shown you how you can see the different parts of the JWT, and I'll try to put that link in the description just as a refresher if you want to understand the JWT token. But in here, what I'm going to show you now, we'll first go and we'll get our token based on the information that we need to provide to eBay, and eBay use that information to authenticate authenticate us, that whether we are allowed or legitimate to communicate with eBay API or not. And once it authenticates us, it will check our authorization. Authorization doesn't matter at this step. It will authenticate us and it returns the JWT token. And that JWT token has our authorization embedded in. And in the next call, which we are going to make, we are going to make a get call. And in the get call, we are going to provide the query, which is obviously the keyword, well, like we normally do on our eBay portal. And based on that query, we're gonna get the outcome or the data from the eBay. So let's start. So first I'm going to show you, so you can see in here that we have the API. So that's the standard API. You can see it's showing that the API is from the sandbox. And by the way, Postman, I'll put that Postman link. You can create your account in the Postman. Everything is free, and it's a very efficient portal to develop the integration with any solution before you jump into the code, right? So you do all the working in here, especially from the API integration perspective, and then you just take it, the main configuration, embed in your code, and then your code start working without any issue. And I will see in the next couple of videos. So that's the URL, which I'll put it in the description as well. So once you get your keys, you need to use that URL and you need to put a post request, which will return you the token, right? So what I will do, because okay, let me just show you. In the authorization, we just need to pass the username, and that username is going to be my client ID. And then the password is going to be my client secret, right? So remember, username is going to be my client ID, and the password is going to be my client secret. And in the previous video, I have shown you both where you can get this from the eBay portal, right? So if you don't know, you can just watch the previous video and it will let you know. It will show you how you can get these two identifier or the configurations, right? Secondly, use the basic authentication, because that's the authentication mechanism we are using. There are multiple authenticated way, but we are using that. And by the way, there's a complete separate discussion on the authentication, how we can authenticate ourselves, what are the authentication methods available. I'm not going to into that discussion. Just to keep things simple, we are using this authentication and we are passing our client ID and client secret. All right, so in here we are not passing anything. And in the body, yeah, the body is important because we are passing two keys. One is grant type, and that is client credentials, right? And if you remember, in the AWS, while we were configuring the JWT service from scratch, we have seen that the client credential has been given to us from the service perspective, like whatever our target solution is. If they have used the JWT, they provide us the capability for us to authenticate against them using the client credential. So that client ID and secret that you have seen in here, that is linked to the authentication grant type, which is equivalent to client credential, right? And the scope is very important, because scope actually define what you are authorized to do while you are making the API calls, right? So if you don't provide the scope, that means the API is open, like you can do everything. You can if they haven't restricted your access, right, you can get, for example, millions of records. You can really put a stress on the system. You can access all the open end that has been configured as part of the API. But if we want to restrict, and if we want to scope that access, that's where the scope come into that picture. So you can see we have put two scope. One is API scope, and you can read it on eBay portal while you configure your keys. That define what kind of access you have while you're talking to the eBay, right? And then you can see the second scope which I'm configuring is by item, by dot item dot bulk. So there are multiple scope that you can use against your configuration, and based on that, once you get your token, eBay ensure that your authorization or your scope is included in the token. Because once we make that call, if the call is not legitimate to see some endpoint which are not part of that scope, eBay is going to give you unauthorized access or access denied access as part of the call, right? So that's the whole concept of scope. So these are the two major sections that we need to configure to get the JWT token. So by the way, that's the first step, and we are going to do exactly the same while we do the code of this solution, right? In here we're just doing manually, but in the code you're gonna see we do it automatically. And by the way, we have already seen it once we were doing the AWS configuration. So let me see if I can run and get my token. And yes, you can see that the outcome or the result is 200, which is and green. That means the request is successful, and you can see the token is in here, right? So this token has some lifetime, I think 7200. Yeah, 7200 second, which is some sort of minutes. I think it's going to be 2 minutes or 20 minutes. I'll check. I'll just do the math and I'll let you know in the next video, right? But you can also check by yourself that how long this token is gonna validate. And that's another very strong aspect of using the JWT. Like, it won't keep your access open all the time. If you, after the expiration, if you need to make another call, it will give you another token for some time or for some window, and then based on that you use it, you work with the API, and then once that session expires, so it will assure that your everything is restricted, right? It's not like open gates that anyone can do whatever they want to do, right? So, and you can see the token type is application access token. So that's the outcome we are getting. So let me just capture that token in here. Well, I have already highlighted it and I have captured it, right? So we are already get the token as part of our post request. Now what we are going to do now We are just going to make the get call because we need the data from eBay API, and now we have a token which we can use to talk to eBay, which is great, right? So what we're gonna do, so the very first thing, we need the URL, the API URL that we can consume to make that call. So in here you can see I am going to put that. These are all the standard, by the way, URL, and obviously I'm communicating with the sandbox, so you can see sandbox everywhere. Once we switch it into the production, we're going to talk to the real eBay portal, right? And it's going to return us the real production data, or the data that is available as part of the eBay application or eBay enterprise system, right? But in the for the demo purpose, I think we are good to use the sandbox environment. And you can see I have defined the parameters and I put that queue. So this is a normal API calling method. And if you have worked with the API, you are all aware that these are very standard things that we normally use while we are building the integration, right? So, and I'm trying to do, I'm trying to actually get those items which are sitting under the category of phone. So for example, if I just type the phone, and eBay will return me all the listing which has related to the phone category. We're gonna get the same, but then we are going to limit it to some extent. And I think I've already defined it. Let me see if I can show you that where I have defined the limit, right? But now you can see that we are searching for all the data which is linked to the phone category, right? Now, in the authorization, that's where we are defining our token. So that's the JWT token that we got as part of our first call to eBay. And then we're going to put that token in here, and you can see the authorization. We are using the bearer token. These are all part of the configuration, right? Which you can use to authenticate your request once you get the token against the eBay API, and eBay API will give you the list that you need. Content types are going to be application JSON. That means the data which you are going to get is going to be in the format of JSON, which is mostly the standard way to communicate with the APIs. And then we're going to see how we can consume that JSON later on into our target systems. And I'm going to show you multiple ways that you can use that JSON output into our say downstream system, whether it's going to be our Azure storage portal, whether it's going to be our databases, whether it's going to be even direct consumption from the Power BI, right? So multiple use cases, or it's going to be either consumed by the OpenAI just to generate the stats that are required, or the analytics that are required as part of this solution, right? So just keep that in mind. I don't think I put anything in here. So let's go and let's do the call, and let me just hit the send. Oh, I'm unauthorized to make that call. So you can see once it's going to show you are unauthorized, and it's also showing you why you are unauthorized, because the token is saying invalid access token. So what happened? I didn't update my token. So that was the last token that I have used as part of my run. So it got expired after some time, but I haven't actually updated that token. So I can show you in here. So that's the old token. What I'm gonna do now, I'm just going to paste a new token, and let me just copy it again for somehow it's not copying. Yeah. And by the way, you can set up that in the variable, but because I'm just testing the core is not to use Postman as part of this demo, because we are just validating everything before we jump into the coding environment, right? So let me now just go back and put the valid token in here, hide the token, right? And hopefully now it will work. Let me just see. It's still giving us the error. So let's see if I can copy this in one. Oh, I might need to copy that. And what I can do, let me just put the instance off. Yeah, that's my token. Looks fine. Should work now. See. go in here, remove it, put the new token. Yeah, and let's see. Yeah, looking better. I think last time it didn't properly update the token. Once the token will work. Once you provide the right token, you're gonna see that the main call, which is now the main call, because we are now talking to the eBay API, and it return us a result, right? So you can see first the indicator for successful run is we're going to get the result 200, and it's going to show you in the green color, which means success. And then you can see all the output, which is you can see is the JSON outcome, and we can copy and we can just validate and consume this JSON for our further work, right? So that's how we can communicate, and it has all that data. I believe it's a pretty large because we haven't restricted it, and I believe I didn't put any restriction in the Postman. So you can see it's giving me a lot of, and by the way, that is all test data, right? It doesn't have any actual data, but once we run against production, it's gonna give us the actual listing which are available on the eBay, right? So in this way, you can build a system, and that's what we are doing it, which can communicate with all these main eBay enterprise portal, and we can get their information, we can put the analysis, and we can automate the whole solution for the analytics, or for the solution, or any business use case that you can use for your own purposes, right? In this series, I'm also going to show you how you can replace this data with your own business data, and it's going to work seamlessly with the same pattern. And that's where I'll show you the power of the APIs, as well as the power of the OpenAI, that it can seamlessly integrate with your systems, and it can do its work without any modification or any changes. But there is a catch in here. On one side, it is really great. It's really stable and strong. But on the other side, we still have similar challenge. It all depends upon your data. If your data is not correct, OpenAI is not going to fix it, and it's not going to give you the right information as part of your analytical system. So more on that in the upcoming videos. For this video, we have completed our job. We run our API calls through Postman successfully, and we are good to now move towards the dev environment. So in the next video, I'm going to show you the same work, but in the Python environment, which we have developed as part of our solution. And I'm going to show you exactly the same information, but in the Python, and we're going to store that information in the JSON format as a file on our drive, which we can later on push it to the Azure storage, and from there we can consume it to either into the database, or we can even consume it directly for our Power BI, which gonna I believe discuss this part of. Let me just open it. Is going to discuss this part of the part 8 to 10. That's going to be that part of the architecture, which will be very down in this series, right? But hopefully this video will help you to understand the first level of integration, or first steps of integration, and more are coming in the upcoming video. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching.